Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Shan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be focusing on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to China, South Korea and Mongolia. He's wrapped up that visit. He's headed back to India. What were the big takeaways? We'll be discussing that with a special guest. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concludes South Korea visit, pitching for the Make in India initiative. The Prime Minister invites investments into India, calls for a united Asia for inclusive growth. The tussle over bureaucratic appointments in Delhi escalates. Kejriwal asks officials not to follow orders from the Lieutenant Governor. Najib Jung meets the President and Home Minister to discuss the crisis. Legal experts are split over Delhi Chief Minister and LG's rules. Our government claims it's following rules while constitution experts question high-handedness. And Iraqi forces deployed to recapture the key city of Ramadi from Islamic State militants. Iraq asks Shia militias for help despite fears of sectarian clashes. Our top story this evening. On the last day of his three-nation tour today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi sought more South Korean investment in India. Pitching for Make in India initiative, he assured a stable and predictable taxation system for ease of doing business. He also stressed on a united Asia for inclusive growth at the 6th Asian Leadership Conference in Seoul.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrapped up his South Korea visit on Tuesday, calling for investments in India to boost his pet Make in India project. He made a strong pitch of his government's business-friendly policies. Modi met CEOs of various companies, including Hyundai Motors, Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics. Addressing the CEOs forum, Modi said his government was working to create conditions for faster and inclusive growth.
That India was and is a land of potentials. Now, India is also a land of enabling policy environment. Moreover, there is renewed commitment of my government for changing the face of the country. We can join hands in the mutual benefit of our people and industry.
Modi also visited Hyundai Heavy Industries here to seek increased partnership between Indian shipyards and the South Korean giant. He also called for joint ventures between Indian and South Korean companies in various sectors.
There is a potential for cooperation between India's software and Korea's hardware industry. Your car making and our designing capabilities can be put together. Your steel making capacity and our resources of iron ore can be put together.
Earlier, the Prime Minister addressed the 6th Asian Leadership Conference in Seoul. He stressed on inclusive growth in Asia through united efforts. He urged Asian countries to shun regionalism.
Growth must be more inclusive within and across nations. This is the obligation of national governments, but also a regional responsibility. That is why the future I dream for India is also the future one for our neighbors.
The Prime Minister also visited the historic Cheonghae-cheo stream in Seoul on Tuesday. The 11-kilometer long reinstated stream has been developed as a part of an urban renewal project with an eco-friendly design.
Economic relationship between India and Korea has mainly been based on the import of consumer items from Korea. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants to change these dynamics and wants to get benefited from the technological achievements of Korea and wants to create something in India so that both the countries can be benefited. Akhilesh Suman with camera person Dusmanta in Seoul for Rajya Sabha television.
And let's go across to Seoul, South Korea, from where we're joined by Assistant Editor of Rajya Sabha TV, Akhilesh Suman, to get the latest. Akhilesh, the Prime Minister has wrapped up his visit. A lot of important meetings targeted at getting more investment in India. What's the commitment like? Do we have a figure or anything like that of investments expected after this three-nation tour of the Prime Minister?
Actually, you see that Prime Minister in the last leg of his visit to South Korea, he came to the Hyundai shipyard where ships are made. So what is there in his mind, you can understand from this that Prime Minister is visiting one country after another to see that who can be the manufacturer in which sector. And I think that if you see the statement of Prime Minister in both the CEO's conference and leadership conference, he is telling two things. One is Asian identity, similar Asian identity, and another is the manufacturing. Manufacturing means whatever can be produced in India. And I think shipbuilding is one of the things that Prime Minister's mind is there, because in Gujarat, he compared South Korea to Gujarat. He said that, see, South Korea is the size of Gujarat, but it is astonishing that South Korea developed so well in manufacturing, in infrastructure, in building, in construction, in shipping, every sector of modern life you can see South Korea has developed like America, like any Western country. So if you roam around South Korean cities and South Korea, many places, you will see that it is like a West in Asia. Western infrastructure is prevalent here, and that is what has influenced the mind of Prime Minister, I think, and that he wants that South Korea-India relationship is without any hiccup. And he wants that South Korean companies should come to India and produce the infrastructure, produce our building, our construction industry, and even we have a huge project in industrial corridor. So Prime Minister's main emphasis with South Korea is this, Russell.
Right, Akhilesh, thanks very much for that update. For now, Akhilesh Sumanu, of course, will be keeping a track of all those developments that happen over there. Let's now go across to Suhasini Haidar. She's the diplomatic editor at The Hindu, and she's here in our studio to help us understand, as far as the Prime Minister's three-nation tour, how successful was it? Suhasini, how would you rate it? And in terms of especially the Make in India pitch that the Prime Minister really made in all countries?
Well, I think to begin with, the success of the visit really lies on the fact that the Prime Minister made very specific, as your correspondent there was saying, very specific messages aimed at specific benefits for India. So if in China, he was really speaking about how China's manufacturers and China's factories must try and find a way of setting up in India. There in South Korea, he's speaking specifically in those industries where he sees a future with India, but also, if you notice, on infrastructure. And I think the two have to go together, because if India has to be open for business, has to be seen as having a better ease of business here, then the infrastructure must be built inside India for these companies to come in. And at present, it's simply not there.
All right, so it's the infrastructure the Prime Minister is promising. He's promising tax reforms. He's promising a regime that is conducive to getting in good investments into the country. But if you look at the other side, other than the investment, other than the money that we talked about, China, the China visit was very important because the neighbor, and we have a very contentious boundary and, a border issue. So as far as all those issues go, and as far as that question of Asian supremacy goes, how did the visit fare in that?
Well, let's look at it this way. The fact is that, as you said, China, we've had a contentious relationship with, and the last year has seen some particularly low points in terms of tension between India and China. Whether it was over the Chumar incident when President Xi Jinping came here, or whether it has been over India's concerns and China's investment in Pakistan, in places like Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, or whether it's been China's concerns about India's closeness to the US, the fact that the joint statement between India and the US included a reference to the South China Sea. These have been low points in the relationship between the two. And I think what we were seeing here is a sort of reset in ties, where the leaders said, let's put all of this on the side. Let's talk about the things we do have in common. However, it's to be hoped. This visit perhaps was not the right platform where tough issues would be dealt with. But it is to be hoped that they will build on this particular visit when it comes to the tough issues. And what are those? There is the boundary issue, in which, despite the fact that they did add a few CBMs, there hasn't been much movement. There has been China's moves in South Asia when you talk about the Silk Route Initiative, the Silk Route Economic Belt. That was something we didn't see much clarity on. And neither did we see India taking up its concerns when it came to the South China Sea, or when it came to other issues inside India like the Brahmaputra. So the tougher issues have been left to another day, But perhaps that's for the best.
All right, my final question would be about what the Prime Minister spoke about India leading Asia, about a big a big regional economy in terms of the Asian economy and India playing a leadership role in that. The Prime Minister certainly hopes to achieve given the visits and given the specific nature of the engagement that he's doing in those visits. So do you see a major shift happening in India? He's already said from look east, it's now an act east policy.
That's right, and this entire visit was an act east, in a sense, from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Look, even the Chinese have quoted Deng Xiaoping as saying, without India and China coming together, Asia cannot develop. And the Chinese leadership repeated that during this visit. I think in terms of Asia's leadership, we've seen a commitment from both sides that India and China can find ways of cooperating. So far, the narrative has always been about competitiveness between India and China. And this time, we heard statements about cooperating in South Asia, cooperating in the subcontinent, talking about how we can work together in terms of business synergies as well. But of course, a lot will depend on how the next few weeks work out, the next few months work out between these two countries, and what actually comes of all the big promises that we have heard during the visit.
All right, so Asni, we'll leave it over there, but thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand Prime Minister Modi's three-nation visit a little better. Well, moving on now, the row over top bureaucrats' appointment in Delhi has escalated further today as Arvind Kejriwal asked his officials not to follow orders from the Lieutenant Governor. After consulting legal experts on the ongoing crisis, Chief Minister Kejriwal met the President a short while ago. Earlier, Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung had met the President and the Home Minister over the controversy.
The standoff between the Delhi government and the Lieutenant Governor escalated further on Tuesday. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has instructed officials not to follow any order from Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung without running it by him. He appointed Arvind Ray as the Principal Secretary on Tuesday, replacing Rajendra Kumar, whose appointment was nullified by the LG to replace Anindo Majumdar. Kejriwal also consulted legal experts on the matter before his meeting with the President to discuss the crisis.
Land, public order और पुलिस को छोड़ के लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर is bound by the aid and advice of the chief minister. He cannot interfere with the administration.
संविधान पढ़ लिया जाए, कानून पढ़ लिया जाए और रूल्स जो उसके बाद निकले वो सब पढ़ लिया जाए और वहाँ सब कुछ बहुत स्पष्ट भाषा में लिखा हुआ है, कहीं कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं है. कंफ्यूजन जहाँ माइंड्स में है वहाँ से क्लियर हो जाएगा.
Meanwhile, the LG met President Pranab Mukherjee and Home Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday to discuss the standoff over his decision to appoint IAS officer Shakuntala Gamlin as acting chief secretary. The AAP government claims that Jung has no say in such appointments and has overstepped his turf by unilaterally appointing Shakuntala Gamlin as acting chief secretary. However, some of the legal experts rejected such claims.
संविधान में स्पष्ट है, राय देने का काम मंत्री परिषद का है. उपराज्यपाल राय नहीं देते. उपराज्यपाल तो ऑर्डर इशू करते हैं या जो निर्णय हो उसको अप्रूव करते हैं.
If they want to get this issue of the authority of the state government vis-a-vis the authority of the Lieutenant Governor in the matter of postings of officers to be settled, they should go to the court. And they should not resort to this kind of brinkmanship. This can create a constitutional crisis which can have unfortunate effects both on the state government as well as on the people of Delhi.
Kejriwal claimed that Gamlin tried to favor power distribution companies in Delhi and acted against public interest. He has declared that he would keep close tabs on the officer in the 10 days that she would act as Chief Secretary. With inputs from Anu Devan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the opposition has raised questions over the functioning of the Delhi government over the standoff, slamming Arvind Kejriwal for allegedly overlooking the procedures. BJP raised concerns over governance in Delhi. The Congress too has claimed that the Delhi government does not have the ultimate power to take such calls. However, Kejriwal found support from JDU. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar backed AAP's demand for full statehood to Delhi to avoid such a crisis.
The constitutional provisions and the business transaction rules and also the formation of the state rules, these are all rules which are to be observed by any chief minister in Delhi. It seems that the Kejriwal do not want to observe these or obey all these rules or go by that. He thinks that he is an elected chief minister, he can act irrespective of the direction from the Lieutenant Governor.
ये बात समझ के परे है कि एक राज्य सरकार मुख्य सचिव नहीं नियुक्त करेगी, तो आखिरकार वो राज्य सरकार कैसे चलाएगी, वो राज्य कैसे चला सकता है? अब इसमें कौन सी कानूनी व्याख्या? तुम सारे कानूनों को ठीक किया जाना चाहिए। अगर इस दिल्ली को राज्य का दर्जा दिया, एक तो पहले ही से कानून और व्यवस्था का कार्य उनके जिम्मे है नहीं, तो पुलिस महकमा उनके पास है नहीं, तो वैसे ही सरकार अधूरी है।
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was all praised for his party's government at the centre as he spoke at the BJP's Delhi State Executive meeting. He praised the Modi government for erasing corruption from the lexicon of India, and he also hit out at the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi for the controversies surrounding and its governance.
मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जो सरकार आई, एक वर्ष में उसने क्या परिवर्तन किया? भ्रष्टाचार शब्द को भारत की राजनीति के शब्दकोश से निकालकर बाहर कर दिया।
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley extolling the Modi government for getting rid of corruption nationally as it nears completion of an year in office. Prime Minister Narendra Modi won a historic mandate to rule on the plank of transparent governance and rapid economic growth. Taking a dig at the Aam Aadmi government in Delhi for its run-ins with Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung, Jaitley said people wanted governance, not controversy.
दिल्ली के लोगों ने जो प्रयोग तो किया, लेकिन बहुत महंगा प्रयोग है ये। इट्स अ वेरी कॉस्टली एक्सपेरिमेंट। और ये कॉस्टली एक्सपेरिमेंट इसलिए है कि जो शासन में आए, शासन चलाना ये उनका राजनीतिक एजेंडा ही नहीं।
Jaitley also had some strong words for the Congress party. He hit out at the party for blocking the goods and services tax and new land acquisition bills in the parliament.
मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ये देश आगे ना बढ़े और इसलिए कांग्रेस पार्टी ने अपने आप को विकास के खिलाफ, प्रगति के खिलाफ, ग्रोथ और डेवलपमेंट के खिलाफ खड़ा कर लिया।
Arun Jaitley was speaking at Delhi's BJP's Executive Committee meeting. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, the Indian Navy has launched its latest anti-submarine vessel, INS Kavarati, in Kolkata.
India-South Korea ties. Stability guided by mutual economic and strategic interest. Has Prime Minister Modi's visit enabled a new fillip? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. And now Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi fired a fresh salvo at the Narendra Modi-led government at the centre, accusing it of stalling development works and taking credit for things done during the previous UPA rule. He also raised the pitch over the mega food park in Amethi, alleging politics of revenge. He accused the Modi government of trying to hurt him, but instead hurting farmers who would have benefited from the food park, as farmers in 10 districts could directly send their produce to the processing units.
इस डिस्ट्रिक्ट को, अमेठी को, बाकी 4, 5, 10 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को बदल देता। क्यों बदलता? क्योंकि जो आज किसान अपना माल मंडी में बेचता है, वो डायरेक्ट फैक्ट्री में बेचता, तो किसान को बहुत ज्यादा पैसा फैक्ट्री से मिलता, फायदा होता। विजन था, सोच थी कि हम फूड पार्क लाएं, यहां पे 5, 6, 10 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स का फायदा हो, किसानों का फायदा हो, मजदूरों का फायदा हो, मगर अब मोदी सरकार ने उसको छीन लिया, और मुझसे नहीं छीना है, वो किसान से, मजदूर से, कमजोर लोगों से छीना है।
Now, BJP President Amit Shah is in Kerala as part of the party's bid to strengthen its base in the state. He also addressed a siege protest in the capital city of Thiruvananthapuram, demanding the removal of Finance Minister K. Mani over his alleged role in the bar bribery scam. Speaking outside the Secretariat, Shah launched a scathing attack on the ruling Congress, alleging that the Oom Shanti government was a government of scams. The Anti-Corruption Bureau had registered a case against Mani earlier in December 2014, alleging that he had accepted bribes from bar owners to renew liquor licenses.
जितने भी आरोप लगे हैं वो सारे के सारे ये बताते हैं कि ये चांदी सरकार घोटालों की सरकार है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी एक सरकार चला रहे हैं। 1 साल के अंदर हमारे विरोधी भी उस सरकार पर एक भी घोटाले का आरोप नहीं कर सकते।
Time now to take a look at what else has been making news around the country nationwide. The Indian Navy today launched its latest anti-submarine warfare class corvette INS Kavrati in Kolkata. 90% of the vessel is indigenously built, weighing 3,300 tons. INS Kavrati is equipped to fight in nuclear, chemical and biological warfare conditions. The ship is propelled by 4 diesel engines to achieve speeds in excess of 25 knots. A Sukhoi Su-30 MKI fighter jet crashed in Nagaon district of Assam this afternoon. Both pilots managed to eject safely before the accident. The jet had taken off from the Tezpur Air Base on a routine mission when the incident took place. The crash happened due to a technical snag, but a detailed inquiry has been ordered. The Delhi police today transferred the officers involved in last week's encounter at a Delhi restaurant. Police said it was Manoj Vashishta who fired at the police team which went to arrest him. Family members of the victim met Delhi Police Commissioner B.S. Basi today, who assured them of a fair probe into the incident. Vashisht's family claimed that he was innocent. The Special Crime Branch of the CBI today arrested a close aide of Sharda Group Chief Sudipto Sen. Arindam Das has been accused of helping the illegal operations of the group. Sharda Group Chief Sudipto Sen is currently in jail in custody in the multi-crore Ponzi scam. Well, some international news now, and Iraq's army and allied paramilitary forces have amassed around Ramadi looking for swift action to recapture the city from the Islamic State. But the militants are keeping up the momentum by attacking government and allied forces. The Iraqi government has now appealed to Shia militias for help, despite the risk of a sectarian backlash.
Islamic State militants roaming the deserted streets of Ramadi in Iraq. Homes and vehicles torched. Weapons of Iraqi forces lying abandoned. All this as the Islamic State militants cement their hold on Ramadi, capital of the western Anbar province, the Iraqi city they captured on Sunday. Retaking Ramadi needs a multi-frontal attack. That is why a column of 3,000 Shiite militia fighters have arrived at a military base near the city as part of the effort to reclaim it. They are being joined by the Iraqi military and police, which had made a chaotic retreat after days of intense fighting.
Well, I think in the long term, we'll find some way, the Iraqis will find some way to take Ramadi back, but it may involve using Shia militias that we would rather not see empowered. I think this does signify the rebuilding of the Iraqi army is slower than we would have liked or predicted. I think it does mean that the overall battle plan against ISIL is going to have to be slower than we predicted.
With the Iraqi military pulling its stranded soldiers out of the city, residents of Ramadi are left with no choice but to flee.
This is fairly bad news, and it also sets back the clock on what we had hoped would be by now a preparation for a counterattack against Mosul, the largest and most important city that ISIL holds. And yet, that would now seem to be even further into the future.
As thousands of residents flee, the UN has warned of a humanitarian crisis. It is trying to meet the needs of those displaced, but says funds are low and its stocks are almost gone. The loss of Ramadi is a blow for both the Iraqi government and the US strategy in the area. The city was a critical piece of the IS goal to control all of Anbar province. US Secretary of State John Kerry tried to put up a brave face, saying the city can be taken back, but the goal seems far-fetched at the moment. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, ousted Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra pleaded not guilty as the rice subsidy scheme trial accusing her of negligence got underway in Bangkok today. If found guilty, she could face up to 10 years in jail. Meanwhile, Thailand's military junta today announced a delay in the general elections, raising questions about a promised return to democracy.
Yes, I am feeling confident to present. So we hope that everything will be followed by the due process and rule of law. Thank you.
A seemingly confident Yingluck Shinawatra as she heads into trial for dereliction of duty in the rice subsidy scheme. She has been charged over a multi-billion-dollar rice scheme that anti-corruption authorities alleged was plagued with graft. Charges she rejects as politically motivated. The hearing as the trial got underway was brief. Shinawatra has been banned from travelling overseas. The court has also agreed bail terms of $9 lakh. Hours after Yingluck's trial began, Thailand's junta announced a 6-month delay in the general elections, raising questions about country's democracy. The junta has also recommended a fresh referendum to give the public the final say on the blueprint for restoring democracy. Critics, however, say the move is a ploy to exclude the powerful Shinawatra family from politics. Yingluck Shinawatra was forced out of office in 2014 after the Constitutional Court found her guilty of abuse of power. A military coup soon after she was removed brought the junta to power. Shinawatra faces up to 10 years in prison if found guilty in the rice subsidy scheme. The next hearing is scheduled for July 21st. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, time now to take a look at what else has been making headlines around the world in global buzz. US President Barack Obama set a new set of restrictions on the use of military equipment by the police department. The new rules come after months of unrest in various US cities over the death of black men in police custody. Obama also pushed for further efforts to build up trust between the police and the people. Hours after fighting resumed in Yemen, Houthi supporters held massive rallies in capital Sana'a, asking to halt Saudi-led coalition strikes. The Saudi-led coalition had resumed airstrikes after the 5-day truce ended on Sunday. Meanwhile, the UN chief Ban Ki-moon has urged for a political dialogue between the two warring sides. Thousands of Macedonians staged a massive rally in support of the country's prime minister. This after just a day after thousands demonstrated against his government. The prime minister faces several corruption charges, which he denies. Has also refused to resign from his position. Heavy summer snowfall disrupted traffic and normal life in the northern Chinese city of Aachen. The snowfall started early on Monday. Authorities say the streets are covered in 10 centimeters of thick snow. Soldiers have been deployed to help clear the streets. Well, here's a quick check of all the sporting events in sports action. The Zimbabwean cricket squad landed in Lahore today as its first international team to tour Pakistan since the militants attacked the Sri Lankan team and match official 6 years ago. The team arrived at the airport in an unprecedented security cover. Hundreds of paramilitary rangers and elite police commandos cordoned off the airport and the route to the 5-star hotel as the visitors were taken in a strong security convoy with dummy buses as well, while a helicopter carried out aerial monitoring. Zimbabwe will play two T20 matches and 3 one-dayers in Lahore. Former Grand Slam doubles tennis champion Bob Hewitt was sentenced to 6 years in prison by a South African court. He was found guilty of rape and a charge of sexual assault on minors. Before sentencing, Hewitt pleaded with the court to take his poor health into consideration. Chelsea suffered their first defeat in 19 IPL matches this season on Monday. The league champions suffered a 3-0 defeat, their worst of the season against West Bromwich Albion. Saido Barranio gave the hosts an early lead before Chelsea midfielder Cesc Fabregas was sent off for kicking the ball against Chris Bunn's head while play was stopped. West Brom made the most of their numerical advantage with Barranio scoring 2 more in the second half. Well, that's it from us. Good night.